All right, so I want to provide some practicals on what I would do if dealing with forearm pain, just kind of like a progression that I would go through. So first thing that we want to do, as well as what not to do, but first thing that we want to do is actually be able to get you or put you into a position where you could feel yourself utilizing that without getting that negative feedback. So what I mean by negative feedback is like your body has sensors that are taking the information, right? And it's sending it up to your brain, and then you're processing that and responding. And the response is what dictates, like, okay, is something tight? Is something loose? Is something easy? What is it? Like, the way that it feels is dictated by the response based on the information that it's getting up. So what I mean by that is like when you're having tightness, the feedback that you're getting is something that is saying that this needs to be tight, and so the response is tightness and lockdown. So what we want to start with is being able to put you in a position in which you can not feel that tightness, so that you can get different information coming up, so that the response can be different, right? So practical example of that, usually when there's forearm tightness, a lot of times what happens is people will kind of like go here and try to like feel it out and try to stretch it out and try to like, they'll go into that tightness over and over and over again. What I would want to do instead, like if this was myself personally dealing with it, I'd want to be able to put myself in that position but actually not feel the tightness. So practically what that means is like, if I'm here and I have tightness here and I want to be able to get in this position without feeling the tightness, I literally want to sit here with it, and I want to be able to go in and feel being able to actually create looseness in that area, right? And if it doesn't make sense for your forearm right now, think about something like your bicep. Like, how would you create tightness in your bicep? Like, you could squeeze and you could create tightness. If you want to create looseness, you could like completely relax that area. Like, the muscle still might be short, but you could create a relaxed feeling or a loose feeling in that area. So it'd be similar here, where it's like, okay, what I want to do is I want to take this muscle bundle here that's tight, and I want to actually make the opposite side of that short, so that this can be long, and so that I don't get that tight sensation coming up. And that involves everything around this area. So specifically, generally, if this is tight, the bicep is probably also going to be a little bit tight. So what we want to do is go on the opposite end. Think tricep. I'm going to shorten the tricep, not isometrically contract. Like, isometrically contract means both sides contract. So I'm not isometrically contracting. I want to shorten this side, allow this side to lengthen, right? So this side I can feel getting shorter, this side I can feel getting longer, and that allows me to release any tension that's there. Once that happens, I now want to do that for the same thing on the other side of the elbow here this way, right? So I keep that short, I keep this long, and now what I want to do is I want to actually like pull my hand down here without, again, it's not an isometric contraction. So isometric contraction would mean like I do this and then this tenses up. So it's not that. It's I want to actually like pull down into position without this and allow this to lengthen while the backside here shortens. So it's literally like I'm feeling backside shorten, this side completely lengthen. Not that it's turned off, but it's actually like you're allowing it to lengthen, and then I can get into that position now without feeling any tightness there, right? And I'd want to spend a good amount of time in that position. Like, it might take some time for you to figure that out and to feel that, but I'd want to spend a good 90 seconds, 3 minutes, 5 minutes in that position. Do that a couple times a day in very specific times. It's not like I'm walking around doing that all the time, but it's like very specific times where I stop, I train, and I do that. So I would start with that. Probably it depends on how rough the tightness is, but could take 2 or 3 days to do that, or doing that. Just continually getting that good feel and that good feedback in end range. And then from that point, I'd want to actually start to train it. So that could then turn into like joint moves, where I could do a specific joint move where I'm here and I'm doing a wrist joint move, but I'm not trying to create tension with it. I'm going with that same feel, specifically with the bicep and the tricep, and then at the wrist, I'm now moving where I like shorten, or I lengthen, and then I shorten, and I lengthen, and then I shorten. And the goal is to be able to do these moves without creating that tightness there, so that you can start to, again, send the feedback up to your brain, like, hey, this is fine, this is fine, this is good, this is good. Like, send that up over and over and over again, right? So that we start to be able to move and use it without getting that feedback of tension or lockdown. So we do that with joint moves. We do that with a wrist impulse. So like wrist impulse example would be, let's go here for now. Wrist impulse example would be, if I were to get into this position here, I could go and I could do wrist impulses here, but again, the goal would be, I actually want to be able to do these impulses at whatever level of intensity you can without getting that feedback. And what happens is you start to build up your body remembering how to actually not get tightness, how to not get get that in that area, right? And so what's cool then is as you do that, like what you're actually doing is you're going through the process of understanding how you control your body doesn't control you, right? And so what you can then do is you can take that same concept, you can now apply it in throwing, or you can apply it when you're training, where it's like, you know how to create looseness in this area. How do you now take that into your throwing? How do you take that into your other training? We're not like artificially creating more tension there than what's needed. We're actually creating that feeling that it is that you want. So that's the general progression that I would take, and things not to do. I wrote some stuff down here. Things not to do. Look for it all the time. So one thing not to do would be like walk around 100 times a day and just be like, how is it? 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 Right? Because what we're doing when we do that is we're connecting more closely to that pain or to that area, and we're just like reminding yourself over and over and over and over again that it's there. And simply by checking to see if it's still there, you're keeping it there. So it'd be when you train. When you're not training, go do whatever else it is that you're doing. You're in school, you're talking to somebody, you're sleeping, you're watching a movie, whatever it is, like go do that. Don't worry about this. When you're training it, train it. When you're not, don't, right? So that's one thing. Another thing not to do, constantly stretch just for relief. So that would be like, 30 seconds, I'm like, oh, it's tight, I'm gonna try to get a stretch, it feels good. Feels good for like 10 minutes and it comes back. And then, okay, again, I'm gonna go stretch, it feels good, and then it comes back. So it wouldn't be stretching it, because stretching is going to provide temporary relief, but it's not actually, you're not like lengthening, shortening the muscle fibers, you're like putting stretch on them, or you're causing friction on them. So we want to actually be able to access end ranges, shortened and lengthened, and that's why we do the moves that I mentioned at the start. That'd be second thing. Third thing, not to do would be think something is wrong. So think like, oh, I better go get an MRI, I better go get this checked out, like maybe my UCL's torn or it's partially torn, or maybe there's a flexor strain or something like that. That would not be the first reaction. The first reaction would simply be, it's there, be with it, allow it to be there, and then go to work with that first thing that we talked about. And then fourth thing not to do, I think you have to do 1 million things to address it. So yeah, like continue asking, what more can I do? 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 It's like the process is basically like recognize that it's there, not respond to it, put in place the plan that you have to address it, and then like use that, right? And then if at some point like you need to readjust, then we do that, but it's not continuing asking what more needs to be done. Last thing that I'll say on it is ensuring that you continue to train everything else. So it's not like we're just doing those for that day. The biggest thing really is the training that you're doing not getting in the way of it. So doing like extremely heavy pull-ups, and it depends on how tight it is, right? Because sometimes you're just going to get tightness and it's not really a big deal. If it's more of something where like you actually can't throw, like let's say you're a baseball player or something else, if it's actually limiting what you can do, then that is where I would back off. That is where I would back off on other main lifts, where it's like you might not want to do like some heavy pull-ups, or you might want to do something like that. But if it's just general tightness, then it's probably okay to keep doing that. Again, it depends on what gradient it's at. But regardless, continue to train everything. So whether it's to train every other thing, so whether it's like full-on lifts, or it's more like if you need to back off because it's actually keeping you from lifting, you from throwing, from doing whatever it is that you want to do. We still want to train everything else. It's just that it's not going to be with the main lifts. It's going to be more like the joint moves, the impulses, where you're able to moderate how this feels as you're going through that, to create that great feeling over and over and over again. So don't spot treat it, or just continue to train everything else as you go through it and as you work on it.